You would head over to Emerald Downs this weekend for the end of the season, and you ask somebody, hey, where is the beer-drinking horse? They would say, you mean Norm's nephew? Boy, there's quite a story behind that horse. Here's Michael King.
They are some of the finest athletes in the world.
Now, top of the stretch, and Norm's nephew still two in front.
Following a draconian daily regimen to maximize speed and stamina.
Norm's nephew by 3 lengths to Mark.
Like a race car needs special fuel, these equine machines follow a strict diet to reach their peak on race day.
And a continued success to Norm's nephew. Wins it easily.
Well, most of them anyway.
Want a beer? Huh? If there's any drinking, he gets part of it, or I go around the corner.
While his stallmates munch hay for breakfast, hay for lunch, then maybe just to mix it up, for dinner they might get a taste of hay. A fella named Norm's nephew prefers his grains in liquid form.
I share with him once in a while, but his backwash is just pretty gross.
Jim Orr is nephew's trainer. He wonders sometimes who's doing the training.
He'll eat probably half his feed, and then he'll get where maybe I don't want to eat that much. And I think he's just begging for a beer. So then when I pour the beer in the other half, then he goes to eat. So he's got me pegged pretty good.
Nephew gets 1 beer a day in his feed. Jim cuts him off the night before race day.
I tell him, you know, when the race is over, you get one, and so far it's working. In fact, he gets 2 when he wins. But he's looking for it when he comes home, I'll tell you.
His beer of choice? Bud Light. Despite our best efforts at a taste test, Jim does not allow another brew to cross his horse's discriminating lips.
And when he started running so good, I didn't want to switch brands.
How about the medical community? Dr. Gerald Bergsma is an Emerald Downs veterinarian. He acknowledges that,
yeah, it's a grain product, yeah.
But he doesn't necessarily recommend the suds for the equine species. However,
you know, I think anything in moderation's fine. I'll have a beer myself in moderation, so I think it's okay for the horses in moderation.
Jockey Kevin Krieger rode nephew to 2nd place at the Emerald Downs Derby. He's all for a little hooch in his horse's giddy-up.
Well, if they're all going to run like him, they all should be drinking.
But how did we get from point A, as in hay, to point B, as in beer? You have to go to point P, as in P.L. Washington. That's where we find out Norm's nephew does indeed have an uncle, after whom he was named. The uncle is why Jim thought of giving beer to the nephew in the first place. He's a former racehorse named Norm's Destiny. His favorite brew, Coors Light, saved his life.
And Norm's Destiny is racing on to victory.
Take you back to the year 2000, the day after Christmas. That was the fateful day when the uncle, Norm's Destiny, was scheduled to be put down because of a chronic leg injury. In this very stall, kind of as a way of saying goodbye, Jim spent the entire Christmas night with his doomed horse, listening to Willie Nelson on the radio, sharing an entire case of Coors Light.
Terrible night, you know. Even kind of tough to talk about now, but it's like you're sitting there with your best buddy and you know one of them's not coming back. And I probably drank 6 or 7 of them and called the wife and said, you got to come get me, this horse got me drunk. And I think all the beer was gone, so he must have got the rest of it. And the next day he was, you know, I had a terrible headache and he was walking great, so I thought, something, it must have worked.
It was nothing short of a miracle, that's for sure.
The beer settled this usually skittish horse. As a result, he didn't re-injure his leg for the first time in months. He slowly healed and actually made it back to the track. As a tribute to Norm's Destiny came the name Norm's Nephew. We take Jim to see the uncle for the first time in a year.
Here, buddy.
That's when beer saves his life again.
I don't know if a can of beer has ever saved a life before, but you're about to see it happen in an odd series of events that will take place right after these commercial messages. Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us, I can't help you. This story is far too complicated to try to explain in 10 seconds. Let's put it to you this way. A can of beer saves a horse's life. Here again is Michael King.
Norm, what are you doing? Saw him when we drove up. And when he was out in the field, I just thinking, God, I hope that isn't Norm's destiny. But I knew it was.
Here's this one-time champion racehorse, ribs showing through, 200 pounds lighter than he should be.
How somebody could let that happen to an animal is beyond me.
Jim had given Norm's destiny to someone he thought he could trust. But when he sees his old drinking buddy left in a burned-out hayfield, too weak to even swing his tail enough to keep the flies off, he knows he's got to get him out of there. The vet says Norm wouldn't have made it another 3 weeks.
Tell you the truth, I was amazed he'd drink the beer. His attitude was just down, and he was just like a beat horse.
2 days after their reunion, Jim gets a trailer down there and brings him back home.
He was just so hungry, I just had to feed him a little bit all day long.
Feed him and give him the occasional beverage.
Watch this one over here. He's jealous.
And the only reason Jim went to see Norm's destiny at all was because of the story about his beer-guzzling nephew. So, beer saved his life a second time.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And he just celebrates. One led back to the other. One led me to one, the other one led me back. And it's kind of like a, it's eerie, but it's a blessing that it happened.
So all's right with the world again. Uncle and nephew reunited, sharing a cold one, and a warm and most definitely fuzzy feeling.
If they had straws, they'd probably share.
Here